In the small town of Willow Creek, California, Ethan Hayes lived a quiet, steady life. At 20 years old, he already carried the kind of responsibility most people his age avoided. He worked at his uncle's garage, fixing everything from old pickup trucks to motorcycles that barely ran. Grease stained his hands permanently, and the smell of oil clung to his clothes. But Ethan didn't mind. He was good at what he did. For him, the garage was more than work. It was comfort, a place where every problem could be solved with patience and tools. People in Willow Creek respected Ethan's talent, though few truly knew him. He kept to himself, speaking little unless necessary. His friends were mostly older mechanics who worked beside him, men who'd taught him tricks of the trade since he was a boy. Ethan didn't dream big or plan far ahead. All he wanted was to someday have his own small garage and live a life free of drama. That simple goal felt enough for him, though deep down he sometimes wondered if life had something more in store. On a warm Saturday afternoon, Ethan was closing the shop when he noticed a sleek silver sedan parked by the roadside. Steam hissed from beneath its hood, and a woman stood beside it, her expression frustrated. She looked out of place in the dusty little town. Her polished heels sank slightly into the dirt, and her elegant jacket clashed against the weathered buildings. Pushing her sunglasses up, she glanced at Ethan with a look that was half relief, half embarrassment. He walked over, rag in hand, curiosity piqued. "Need help?" Ethan asked in his usual polite tone. His voice was calm, steady, almost shy. The woman's lips curved into a faint smile. "Yes, please. It just died on me." He nodded and leaned under the hood. Within moments he found the problem. "Radiator hose, snapped clean. I can patch it for now, enough to get you back on the road." His words carried confidence, not arrogance, the kind born from experience. "Thank you," she said warmly. "I'm Claire." "Ethan," he replied simply, giving a brief smile before getting back to work. The job took half an hour, and when the sedan roared to life again, Claire reached for her wallet. Ethan shook his head firmly. "Don't worry about it. Just glad to help." He wiped his hands clean, already turning back toward the garage. Claire, however, lingered. She studied him closely, as though there was more to notice than the grease and sweat of a day's work. Ethan ignored the feeling, brushing it off as simple curiosity from a stranger. That evening, Ethan sat alone at the small-town diner, sipping on coffee after a long day. He was startled when the door swung open and Claire walked in. She spotted him instantly and, without hesitation, slid into the booth across from him. "I owe you dinner," she announced, her tone playful yet firm. Ethan hesitated, not used to such forwardness. Slowly, he nodded. Something in her presence felt disarming, unusual, yet not unwelcome. Over greasy burgers and fries, their conversation flowed easier than Ethan expected. Claire asked about his life, his work, and even his family. Ethan found himself opening up more than he normally did, sharing stories about his childhood and his mother. Claire listened intently, her eyes warm with interest. To Ethan, she seemed different, sophisticated but grounded, a stranger who treated him as if he was someone worth knowing. What he didn't realize was that Claire's presence wasn't an accident. Her car trouble hadn't been random. She had sought him out deliberately, with reasons Ethan had yet to discover. The days following that dinner blurred into something Ethan hadn't expected. Claire appeared often, sometimes at the garage, sometimes waiting outside the diner where she knew he stopped after work. At first, Ethan thought it was coincidence, but soon he realized she was seeking him out deliberately. She asked him to join her for coffee, to walk around the small town, even to sit by the lake in the evenings. Ethan found himself saying yes, more often than no, surprised at how naturally her presence fit into the quiet spaces of his life. Yet, part of him couldn't shake the feeling that something didn't add up. Claire was unlike anyone in Willow Creek. Her clothes, her way of speaking, the confidence in her stride, it all suggested she came from a different world. Ethan tried to dismiss the thought, convincing himself she was just a traveler passing through, maybe curious about the simple life he lived. Still, when she looked at him, her gaze felt purposeful, as if she knew something he didn't. It was both comforting and unsettling at once. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Claire invited Ethan to a small restaurant in a neighboring town. Over candlelight, she finally spoke the words she had been holding back. "Ethan," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I didn't find you by accident. I knew who you were before I drove into Willow Creek." Her confession sent a shock through him. He set his fork down, his expression tightening with suspicion. She continued, "Your mother once helped my family years ago in ways she probably never told you. I wanted to find you, to repay that kindness." Ethan's heart pounded as her words sank in. He felt anger prickling at the edges of his chest. "So, all this, meeting you, helping with your car, it wasn't real. You planned it." His voice was low, steady, but laced with hurt. Claire reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly. "It was real, Ethan. Every moment we've shared. Yes, I sought you out, but what grew between us wasn't part of any plan." Her eyes glistened with sincerity, and for a long moment, silence stretched between them. Back at his garage that night, Ethan wrestled with his thoughts. He had always valued honesty, and to find out that their meeting had been orchestrated felt like betrayal. Yet he couldn't deny the truth in her words. Their connection was real. He felt it every time she laughed, every time she looked at him with that unspoken warmth. By morning, Ethan knew he had to decide whether to let her secret overshadow what they had built, or to trust that her heart was true, despite the beginning. When he saw Claire again, she stood nervously by her car, as if ready to leave for good. Ethan approached slowly, wiping his hands on a rag, his face unreadable. She spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you can't forgive me, I'll understand." Ethan studied her for a moment, then sighed deeply. "I don't like lies, Claire, but I can't ignore what's real either. You've become part of my life, whether I was ready or not." Relief washed over her face as she stepped closer, and for the first time, Ethan allowed himself to truly embrace the unexpected path fate had written for him.